I did speak earlier today, and I considered not speaking at this time. It was my understanding there would be an honorarium of the order of $2,000.
If you keep it to 2 minutes.
Claire will pay it.
This is a religious service. If you people would show a little decorum.
Ain't it, brother?
Joe mentioned earlier about some of the organizational days at the downtown church. My introduction to Unitarianism in total ran something like this. It was about a little over 50 years ago. I was sitting reading the Sun paper on a Saturday afternoon, reading a page that identified the services of various churches in the region. And there was one notice about 3 inches high and about a column wide. And it said at the very top, if you believe the following, you are a Unitarian. And there were 5 bullets, and I won't bore you with the details, but the 5 bullets contained the essential philosophy, background, history, and application of the Unitarian faith. And boy, reading that just lifted me right out of my chair, because I scored about 102%. And I thought I'd just have to get into these, into this situation. So Phyllis, my wife, and I attended the downtown church for about 2 years. And somewhere in the history that Joan has described to you, there came an organization time after the problems with Dr. Oregon and some of the other problems you've heard about. We requested, and a man named Norm Cousins came down from Union Way and Beacon Street in Boston to hold an organizational meeting. And I guess he was trying to catch a train or something. But here's how the meeting went. There were about 6 of us sitting in a circle, and he said, you're building and grounds, you're the manager. He pointed at me and said, you're director of religious education, which, as you may remember, was a disaster. I had grown up in a Calvinist church, which had some interesting features. And one of them was called predestination. Hi, I didn't know you were here. One of them was called predestination. That says that if God is the Almighty, He gets to choose you. You don't get to choose Him. You know, there's a certain logic there. What you do with it, that logic is not clear. But anyhow, I now was in my 2nd year of Unitarianism, and I was the director of religious education. And of course, there was an entire hierarchy of RA specialists with all kinds of background present at all meetings. And who is this guy Van Buren that stumbles in and he's going to tell us what to do? The short of it is, for those of you who are tiring, and I see a few of you that are tiring, is I did head religious education for the first year. And at the end of the year, I was approached by a group. Is Jay Cherry here?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think Cherry might have headed the group. And the general message was, you know, we like you a lot. And we appreciate the work you've done. But goodbye. That was, so I started my RA career with less than a spectacular success. I had grown up in a Calvinist faith, as I mentioned earlier. Phyllis, my wife, was a Presbyterian. And we were having a lot of bumps in the road. I used to say useful things like, we will never live in a house that's more than 5 miles away from a Christian Reformed Calvinist church. And her father used to say, give him time, he'll get over it. We were having some bumps in the road, like bumps in our marriage. because of my Calvinism and her Presbyterianism. But thanks to this church and all those beautiful people, Dr. Argyle, Francis Pettyjohn, we discovered humanism. Hooray! It's the answer. It was the answer then. It's the answer for me today. I had passed at this point, as I said, the responsibilities, the joys and the sorrows of RE. But I continued to poke into humanism. I went to Boston, I went to UUA, I sat around for a couple of days, found some guys to talk to. And it was marvelous. It was like a poor man finding a $20 bill. I'd been in the Navy for a couple of years and crossed trails with about 20 different religions, and none of them Unitarianism. Maybe that says something about our outreach. I guess what I'm trying to say to some of you, there's a lot of power in this Unitarian faith. A lot of power in humanism and all the other wings of the church. And to some of you younger folks, if you're having some bumps in the road, sit down with the other guy and talk humanism. Talk the Unitarian faith, and this young lady over here would probably be available to give you some help. Anna has spoken earlier about renting 406 and the great times we had together. We didn't have any money, but at the risk of being non-masculine, we had a lot of love. I mean, Alex is sitting there smiling. We loved each other. We went sailing. We almost crossed the ocean one time, except we ran out of gas. We just had some marvelous times. There's a power. You have the power. You have the strength. And look around at what your support systems are, and you might find that the overall complex of Unitarianism and a religious faith is one of your powerful foundations. We, during the building period that has been described, we did have a lot of drive. We had a lot of power. We didn't have any money. We could do anything. Yeah, get a couple of guys, jump out of a car, go do it. Ring a bell, knock a house down, no problem. We had a marvelous architect named Mark Beck. And Charlie Lee, as you know, is the guy who really made this whole place happen. And to those of you who are familiar with the problems of starting with a sea of mud and winding up with something beautiful like this, you really had to know what you're doing. Unfortunately, Charlie's also a hard nose. He likes to act like harshness, but he's a sweetheart down inside, and we all know that. The building committee at that time was headed by Charlie, and I guess somewhat in conclusion, my wife usually says it's too late for that. The major influence in my life were two individuals, Waldemar Argo, who Joan has described to you as being the anti-Unitarian church, and rightfully so. If I were in his shoes, he wanted to keep all this energy and all this money in the downtown church. It was understandable. But for me, he's a guy who always lit the torch for Unitarianism. And I guess